As I'm sure many of you are already aware, we have gone through many changes since we became an independent organisation and a registered charity over the course of the past 2 years. However, the most innovative and perhaps most evident changes have occurred since we launched our public profile last September with the launch of our first marketing and PR campaign, the C Word. Therefore, with September just around the corner yet again, we thought it would be apt to take stock and look back on the past 12 months of Craft Scotland. Okay, sorry for the blip in the sound there. That was me, unfortunately, pressing my bit of technology there. Okay, so things have slightly changed on the agenda today. I'm going to talk for a little bit more than scheduled. Rebecca's going to talk for a little bit less. For the team members here, you'll all know that that's not normally the case, but it is today because I have slightly more to say. So over the next 30-40 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you some anecdotes of the past 12 months recently, because whilst I'm very aware we've had a hugely successful year, over the course of the summer I've been holding a number of maker consultations across the country, and what's come back clearly to me is that whilst we are very successful, we aren't really very good at communicating that level of success to you, the potential membership, the craft sector in Scotland. And we're also not very good at sharing the details, the anecdotal successes with you either. So I'm going to use the C Word and to a certain extent Meteor Maker as a little case study just to fill you in on certain pieces that, of work that we do that I hope will reflect the ambition of the organisation. I'm then going to introduce you to the team, which is one of the most exciting things for me to say, because at the last AGM, we didn't really have a team. In fact, we didn't really have an office to put them in. So it's really nice to be able to say that there's now 7 of us working to develop the sector. And then for those of you who tell me that you like to be surprised by what Craft Scotland does next, big spoiler alert, I'm going to be announcing our new philosophy as we've moved forward with our business planning over the course of the past 3 or 4 months with the support of David Williams, our board and staff advisor here. And we've also secured a significant pot of funding last week, which I'd like to tell you more about, as well as touch on some of the parts of representation for you, the craft sector, that we haven't really talked about before. So, first of all, since the last time we met at the AGM in December 2008 at the Festival Theatre, lots has happened. This is our office, or broom cupboard as we called it, at the time of the AGM. It's like one of those photographs in the holiday brochures. It looks spacious, but once you got in there, it really wasn't. We could have pretty much 2 members of staff, a couple of plinths, and that was pretty much it. However, this office was where I spent much of my time planning and thinking about what the organisation should look like. So it's a very special place for me. When I first joined the organisation on my first day, there was a computer screen and a dead pot plant and not much else. So it's really great to be able to look at our new office of moving forward. For the first half of 2009, we concentrated on looking at things like budgets, the organisational structure, our board, thinking about how we could move forward. We'd operated as a project very successfully from 2003 onwards, but it was time to start working as an organisation. So the first thing we did was look at bringing things like freelance contracts in-house, thus saving thousands of pounds and also keeping that resource within the organisation. And it's also where we worked up more of the exciting, relevant and perhaps more beneficial marketing campaigns and ways to spend our general budget. When I first arrived, one of my jobs was to read through the piles of documentation that I was given by then Scottish Arts Council and the board. And this quote represents many comments from our Maker survey. Craft is promoted to the converted, which gives the illusion of a clique. We need to be promoted in a high-profile, public way. Now, just to backtrack slightly, in early 2008, Creative Scotland, or the then Scottish Arts Council, and our board of directors made the decision to develop Crafts Scotland, that was then a project, into an organisation, and that we would take the form of an audience development agency. Now, ADAs, or audience development agencies, are not uncommon. There's roughly 15, 16 of them across the UK now. You might know the Audience Business in Edinburgh, or Culture Sparks, which was Glasgow Bros Audiences, in Glasgow, obviously. But the AD agencies tend to work across art form, and in my old agency, where I worked in Manchester, we didn't even know craft existed. As far as I'm aware, Craft Scotland is still the world's first audience development agency solely for the promotion of craft. And we work across 3 strands in the same way as all the other agencies: research and intelligence, marketing communications, and audience development. And so the Maker surveys were a vital part of the marketing development. So as well as the first question that was just put up there, we also asked, what does the word craft mean to you? And when I started to think about the marketing campaign, I really wanted to know what the makers thought Scottish craft was. When I read the surveys, we tended to get 2 distinct categories of answers. We got the top one, perception of the word craft as amateur. Consequently, I avoid the C word in most of my marketing. And then we got the slightly more positive one of encouraging craft artists to be proud to be linked to the word craft. It is not a dirty word. But reading through them, I have to say the second statement didn't really smack of confidence. Sitting in the broom cupboard, only a few weeks into, or should I say our first office, only a few weeks into my new job, my confidence really began to plummet. This was the first time I worked in the craft sector. I knew my colleagues in other art forms didn't particularly think craft was as worthy or as vital or as interesting as the art forms they worked in. I knew the press didn't think so. The coverage was amateurish, twee, negative, something your granny does, and that's about it. You've seen it. I don't need to go on. My grandma had recently been diagnosed with the worst C word of all, cancer. The papers were filled with 2 terrible C words, credit and his good friend crunch, and it was really strange for me to read that the makers were wanting to walk away from this word craft. So I decided that it was time to reclaim the word craft and all of the positive associations it has. It's very tough to work in an organisation called Craft Scotland and avoid the word after all. It wasn't a tough decision to decide what we should spend the marketing budget on. We usually spent it on leaflets, such as what you see here. I'm sure those of you who know the organisation well recognise them. And DVDs, which I have to say, having done research, have been really mostly unwatched and put on a shelf. It was time to reposition, or in my personal opinion, position craft for the first time as something thought-provoking, something absolutely downright beautiful art form. I wanted to encourage passion, pride and enthusiasm in the sector, but not just within the sector. I also wanted Scottish people to be proud of what was happening in their own country. And I also wanted people outside of Scotland to be passionate and proud and enthusiastic about buying and seeing Scottish craft. We knew it had to be high profile, it had to be out with the clique of the craft sector, and we had to develop new audiences. And so the C word was born out of comments in the Maker survey, audience research, and what seemed to me the most obvious need to develop craft promotion. Now, cinema advertising is the most visual form of advertising, and it's an art form in itself. And therefore, for me, it seemed the obvious platform to promote such a highly visual, highly aesthetically pleasing form of art. I didn't really understand why people hadn't thought of it before until I realised the cost of it. However, not to be deterred, we wrote to a number of companies asking for silent sponsorship. We sent the letters on the 23rd of December, inviting them to be an early Santa and show their appreciation of Scottish craft, and to support an organisation that was passionate, ambitious, yet had no money. I came back into work on the 4th of January, and we had yeses from them all. I'm pleased to say that all silent sponsors too, so we could concentrate on promoting Craft Scotland. Partnership working is a key part of what we do, and we develop partnerships with museums, galleries, regional and local organisations working in craft. But it's also important to Craft Scotland that we don't just work within the craft sector. We are not a craft organisation. Craft Scotland is a creative organisation that is working to promote the sector. So we worked with a number of partners for the C Word, Pearl and Dean. I won't sing the Papa Pars, but if you go to the cinema regularly, I'm sure you know what they are. STV, who took the campaign onto TV advertising from November through to January this year. David Bonney, who in my opinion is one of the finest directors this country has, worked with us to develop what I think is an astounding campaign. Vox Populus, our PR and event management company, who secured the world premiere of the ad in London and also worked with us on the press coverage. The press coverage was particularly something that we're excited about. The deal that we struck with the Sunday Times gave us almost 3 months of coverage every Sunday, and this alone was more coverage than the organisation had ever had before. So we were very pleased with the coverage that we had. Okay, so we don't often talk about the actual making of the campaign, but this is where really our creativity really got going, and it was also where the support of the organisations that were helping us either financially or in kind really came to the fore. I didn't actually think Lara Scobie was coming today, so I've used her as an example. I've just clocked her at the back there. But just to show you the passion and enthusiasm that the makers had who were involved in the campaign. This is a Lara Scobie ceramic bowl, and we asked Lara to bring a second in to, because we were going to break it, we were going to smash it with a golf club. And when she arrived, she was walking with it like this out of the car, and I thought, oh God, that's not a second. And she said to me, it's going to be shot in high definition. I want this to look superb on the screen, even if it is being smashed. And that's just one example to show really the dedication of the makers involved. This is also Lara in the middle here, a bit dark there, but she was being taught to swing a golf club by our producer, and after an hour he gave up and he actually swung the golf club for himself. But all of our partners worked to get us the best deal possible. I was told we were going to have a crew of 2. We ended up having a crew of almost 15. Red cameras were donated to us to ensure the best possible quality. For those of you who don't know, red cameras, they're very rare, they're better than high definition, and they give you the absolute best impact for cinema advertising.